Hi, Divine Ones, and welcome to this week's episode of Embodied Divinity, where I have the pleasure of interviewing Divine Mandy Oracle, a shamanic ancestral healer guiding you to relationship with your ancestors that hold power and healing. You can explore all the ways to work with Mandy below as we dive into ancestral healing in today's episode. I hope you feel the magic and enjoy all she has to offer. Welcome, everyone, to Embodied Divinity. I just told you all about Mandy, the powerful woman sitting in front of me today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So great to finally connect with you. I know we've been seeing each other on the socials for so long. I'd love for you to start with my signature question. How did you become the woman sitting in front of us today?
The woman I am today had to have come from all of my hardships that I've survived. I would say things that I went through in childhood that created this survival shell around me, that actually led me through all of the experiences that I went through after that. Things that I willingly went into, even though I may not have known the effects and the impact it was going to have on me. But that's actually a good thing because then it later on helped me to grab all of the survival that I had learned as a child, and I was able to escape, different experiences, environments that I knew if I had stayed in, I wouldn't be this woman at all. I probably wouldn't even be sitting here right now. So I would definitely say the things that I survived that, and I want to give credit to my child self, which I know you work a lot with the inner child. So I definitely want to give honor and reverence and credit to that child part of me that survived so that it taught me how to take that. And then of course later on I learned how to heal those aspects of me so that I no longer had to live in survival, and so I was able to come out of the surface and come alive and actually live my purpose and live with excitement and joy and peace without the fear of something coming out of the shadows that was going to eat me, that feeling that I had for so long. So I'm really grateful for me and for the child part that survived and taught me so much, and now I get to show her and teach her that we no longer have to survive. We can live out of excitement, we can live out of pleasure, and we can live out of helping others feel that for themselves as well.
Mm, so powerful. I'm grateful that you are the woman you are today too, and the way that you were able to move through it, and now you can hold such a huge container for so many people, because of the way that you responded to your experiences. How would you say? So I know you do a lot with ancestral healing and really just standing in your power, really alchemizing these experiences that you've had to create something that you desire. How would you say that your own ancestral line played into the experiences that you had growing up and even in your early adulthood that weren't so glamorous?
They were definitely there with me. They were definitely there, even though I didn't know it at the time. I know now. I've had visions of them showing me the times where I felt the most alone, especially as a child. They literally showed me that they were there listening to my words as I was in the backyard. I spent a lot of my childhood behind a back shed in the backyard of my where I grew up, and I was very alone. But they literally showed me a vision when I really connected with my ancestors. They really showed me, they brought that vision back to me. And it was almost like they said, "Do you remember when you were always behind that shed as a little girl?" And they brought it back to me. And this time, instead of me sitting there alone behind this shed, I literally seen my ancestors sitting there in the grass, watching me, playing with me. Like they were very attentive. I would go back there and read books. They were like, "We were sitting there, we heard you reading, we were your audience." And that literally, I bawled and cried because I literally had this, just I realized that I wasn't alone and they were with me even though they were in spirit. So I know that they played a big part in helping me heal in that. And also a lot of the things that I went through, I know now that it was literally healing them. And so, of course, they were going to be with me. Like, they better. Like, I was literally helping them heal their stuff through my body. And so it's like they hand in hand. I'm helping them, they're helping me. And the whole time they were there with me, and now even more.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I know a lot of people when they begin this work, or whether it's ancestors or working with source or goddess or whatever, they are like, well, if you were there, why didn't you help me? And it's like, that's not the thing, right? And we can't always see the way they're helping. Sometimes we have to go through the experience to alchemize it in order to heal these generational lines. And like being a cycle breaker and an ancestral healer is not for the faint of heart, because they aren't going to pick you up and take you out of the situation, because they need you to go through it in a way to heal them and to also give you that experience to evolve. And so I think it's really powerful that you could look back and see the ways that were with you, even the ways they might have made it more filled with grace and love than it was. And also that you had to go through it in order to break these patterns. Yeah.
I definitely did.
So, what even is ancestral healing? Like, what is it? If our listeners have never even really heard of it, how would you summarize it?
So I would have to first state that our bodies carry the stories of our ancestors. It's not something that goes away when they pass and transition, whether usually the ancestors I work with in clients' lineage are from hundreds and thousands of years ago. These stories are still in their bodies today, and they're still carrying it in the present. So what happens is a lot of times there are things in your body, there's things that you deal with, suffer with, things that you they can't get rid of. I clients try to do everything to heal these certain things, holistically, or even with like all kinds of other measures. And it's when they realize that the stories of their ancestors from hundreds and thousands of years ago, these are ancestors that may have suffered genocide. These are ancestors that went through violations and went through even historic things. And when you go into your body and you begin to hear their stories, and this is an ancestral healing. In an ancestral healing, we literally go into the body and we hear their stories. I've had clients who literally during the session, they're telling me what the ancestors are guiding them to see. They're literally walking them through the experiences that they went through. Some of this is really ugly. Some of it is just showing them what they received from the experience. I've had a client who their ancestors literally went through genocide, and some of her ancestors were able to show her that yes, we went through this, but some of them will be in anger and rage because of that. And so that'll be a reason why your body is in a lot of like festering with anger and rage, and you won't even understand why. You'll try to pinpoint it with situations of your life today, and people will heal that. They'll go in like inner child healing or whatever, and they'll go in and heal those, and then they'll still suffer from it. And they don't have, they're questioning, like, I got to keep healing this. Does it ever end? Yes, it does. Like, I really believe that ancestral healing gets to the root of it, because your ancestors literally will do a lot of the hard work for you instead of you having to literally go in and dive in and do it all by yourself. Your ancestors will literally do what only they can do, because your body is crafted from them. You are only here because of your ancestors. This isn't even, if you want to pull out the spirituality part of it, then pull it out. Your physical human body is only here because of your ancestors. That's it. So imagine how powerful, think about how powerful it is if you can bring in those ancestors that helped create your body and your blood and your DNA, and literally begin to help heal you. They'll in a session, they do a surgery process. Like, that's my own word. They actually go into the body, begin to do the surgery work. What they'll do is they'll begin to see the stories that are inside of your body that do not belong to you. And this can be from this lifetime or in your past lives. They will literally read those stories that are in your body that do not belong to you, and they will literally clear those stories out of your body. This will be a lot of things that you may suffer with today, and it literally brings just a release on your cells, your cell membrane, your blood, your muscles, your tendons, and your bones, your mind, your nerve endings, your brain. This is literally like physical as well, so not just spiritual. In a sense, it will literally impact your human body as well.
That's so cool. I think it's really powerful work. And I know that you can carry a lot of those stories with you. And while there's so many deeper, more traumatic stories I could tell, the one I want to share that I think summarizes kind of what you were talking about is like, for me personally, I when I first came into like the adult world and was trying to create more wealth for myself, I could create all of this wealth, but I would constantly have these like lack mentality, scarcity mentality. I couldn't hold it. I'd get it and I'd be afraid that it was going to go. I'd be scared to put it in banks. And so I did like this inner child work, and I healed the story with my mom and her scarcity, but it was still there. And so one night I'm praying and I'm working with the goddesses, and I ask, like, just show me. And what came forward was my grandparents who had lived during the Great Depression, and the fear that they constantly felt. Not only did they lose all of their wealth that was in the banks, so there was this massive like lack of trust against the government, but then they also lost their ability to feel safe and survive in the world. And so when I could hear that story and I could hear it, remove it from my own cells, like by holding space for it, by bringing love to it, then and only then could I hold money without being scared that it was going to go somewhere. Is that kind of, in short, the process you were talking about?
I love it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild that story of them was carried through me, right? And it can be these things with sexuality, with relationships, with money, with all of it. And one of the questions you talked about in your application was, how can we manifest this healing in our bodies and clear past lives from it as well? How does this kind of how do we do this work so that it's not affecting our current day reality like it was for me?
Right. So you can literally tap your body carries all the information. So when you're going into connecting with your ancestors, I love the ancestors. They're my favorite, because they're your body literally came from them. So when you go in and they begin to help you heal this, they do a lot of the work even after. So even during an ancestral healing, when they come forward, you may not know what your ancestors went through. You may not even know who your ancestors are. You may have been adopted, so you have absolute no idea who you are, where you came from, where it all started. You don't own anything. The beautiful thing is you don't have to know nothing. And you go into an ancestral healing and they know you. They know you. And they will come forward and they will take care of it. And my clients will they'll be laying down. And I'm not even doing anything. I'm just there to facilitate and be a support. And I will give them the information, what I'm seeing, what the ancestors are doing. They'll come forward. They'll begin to bring in what they need to bring in, whether it's wisdom from the things they went through, or they're just bringing in, or or releasing things from your body. And they're literally doing this on their own. They're like taking care of business. This is literally going to help you focus on your purpose in this mission. And the really amazing thing that I've seen is that if you have a past life in your body and you don't even know, you don't know, you don't know what you've experienced in a past life, your ancestors, they can't clear that because they may not have been your ancestors in that lifetime. But here's the thing, they will bring it forward and bring it to awareness. When they're taking care of business, they will bring it through. That past life will come through. I've had clients literally see who they were in a past life, staring at them, speaking to them, talking to them. When you can clear that from your body, that helps you stay in the present, because now that past life is gone and removed from the blood, from the DNA. So now what happens is your ancestors in this lifetime will come forward and say, okay, I'll take the beacon now. I'll take the torch. Now it's my turn. I will now help you bring you into your purpose. I will help you come into alignment for your mission that you are doing here. Because sometimes, a lot of times, people are scattered. They're all over. They want to do this. They want to do that. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't have an understanding, and they're trying to heal at the same time. Damn, that's really difficult. So what happens is you can clear this past life. You bring in your ancestors of this present lifetime. They will now bring you into your full purpose in this lifetime, your full mission in this lifetime, so they can take care of that here, so you won't have to be like all over, especially with so much trauma stories, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. As especially in living in the present moment and like seeing clearly from this current lens. Why do you think this work is important, and how has it benefited you personally?
Oh my, it's made me a lot of of who I am today, with emotional stability. It has given me an emotional stability that is mine, not the emotional episodes that my ancestors may have carried, or even me as a child carried. Because even then, I was carrying the emotions of my ancestors without knowing. And it made me who I was. So it is powerful. It's not something bad. And now I have an extreme amount of emotional stability. And the reason why it is so important is because it connects you with who your body has been crafted from. And a lot of times, even like illnesses and stuff can be it coming from these ancestral pains and ancestral beliefs. And so healing the ancestral lineage, bringing them forward, so that you are literally in relationship with them and you are communicating with them. You are letting them know, I may not know what you went through. I may not know the pain and the suffering you went through, but I am taking and validating your story that I've been carrying in my body. Because let me tell you, I don't want to carry it. And you can have this communication with your ancestors. I don't want to hold your anger. I don't want to hold your rage. I want to live my life for me in this lifetime, but I want your wisdom. I want your power, and I want your stability, and vice versa, because me having emotional stability gives my ancestors proof that it existed. And you're the prayers of your ancestors, man. You're the dream of your ancestors. And the life that you live today, only they prayed for. They wish they could have lived this life, but you living it, they live through you. They're still alive in your body.
What if somebody like doesn't care or has no desire to connect with their ancestors?
So a lot of times people won't want to, because they won't know who they came from. A lot of them are pissed off at their ancestors, because a lot of people know what their ancestors did. I've had clients say that I hate my ancestors. I know some of the things they did. I hate. I don't. Whether it's colonization, or they helped with historic trauma and abuse that's written in our history, and they're saying, I don't want anything to do with them. And the beautiful thing is, yes, you can say that, but the beautiful thing is, in an ancestral healing, you don't have to connect with those. I always tell my clients that we connect with the ancestors before the pain, because somewhere in your lineage, there were ancestors that had the love like you do, had this love, had this desire for love and for life and enjoyment and pleasure. I mean, even if it was just a dream or a thought, there was this ancestors before pain. That's what I like to call it. Ancestors that carried the wisdom, whether it was shamans, medicine women, witches, elders, and leaders of respect and reverence. They're all in your lineage, and we're in a past life. And so you may have absolutely no desire to connect with your ancestors, but if you knew the emotional stability that it can bring in your life, and I mean, almost anybody wants emotional stability, even if it has nothing to do with spirituality, right? Because a lot of people don't want to go in and heal their inner child because of the traumatic things that they experienced. I don't blame them. If I knew the stuff I had to go in to heal, if you told me now, I would probably not want to go in and heal the inner child, because so much things come up that you didn't even realize you went through because you were suppressing it, or your brain was kind of making it dark so you wouldn't know. But the beautiful thing is if you bring in your ancestors, they can actually help you with inner child healing, in which tonight I do have a session in person where my client is doing an ancestral healing with inner child healing. So we're literally connecting them. She asked for that. So she literally wants them connected. I think this is so beautiful because the ancestors are going to help her do the inner child healing as well. So that's just a great importance for me in the body. And if you're not spiritual, then it can just help with the physical, feeling present in your body, feeling grounded in your body.
I think that's so cool. And I love that you can make it for anyone, regardless of whether they want to connect or not. So speaking of emotional stability, I don't know your whole story, but I do know you've had quite the life. You escaped from a cult. You have had so much occur. And then here you are embodying this really deep feminine grace and beauty and power. How can you tell us a little bit more about your story, how it unfolded to really become the essence that you are, and also how ancestral healing played a part in that?
So when I went into a religious cult at the age of 16 years old, I didn't know it was a cult. And I became a member. My mother was a little bit more religious. And so the doctrine of being, saved and not going to hell, it just seemed very, it just seemed attractive to me. And I didn't want to suffer. I didn't want to be in pain. So going to hell was not something I wanted to do. And at that time, I kind of believed that. So when I went into a cult and they groomed me and I was programmed to believe a lot of their doctrine, I know now that I literally embodied what my ancestors had felt in religion before, um, because a lot of my ancestors, especially with like Native American, they didn't have religion, that was like, they were like ceremonies and earth and nature and their own medicine. And then religion played a part and it kind of just interrupted that. And so in my time in this religious cult, I really feel like I didn't know it then, but I embodied the pain of being groomed and being manipulated and being taken away from the root of who I had always been and where I had come from. And now I had to be subjected and submit to a doctrine, to a traumatic and abusive doctrine that I carried for almost 20 years in my time in that cult. And when I finally escaped, having to deprogram from that was especially with shame, because shame was a huge aspect in that cult of feeling shameful and being ashamed. And so I literally didn't know about ancestors then, and I didn't know that they were with me. I was not allowed to believe in that. I wasn't allowed to believe the essence of who I am today. I wasn't allowed to believe in, nature and earth and source and spirit and ancestors. I mean, that was all evil, and it was really sad. So I was the opposite of my essence in that place. And so connecting with escaping that place and beginning to connect with my ancestors in person here, like with my parents and stuff, because I was really isolated in that cult. I wasn't allowed to be with anybody that was not in that cult. So there were unbelievers and outsiders. I wasn't allowed to mingle with them. So I was not allowed to have a relationship with my father. I seen my mom a little more, but I was not allowed. And so when I escaped, I began connecting with my father more. And that's where the Native American culture comes from. So that is just so beautiful because it makes me emotional because I was able to connect with my roots. And there it is, connecting with your roots and your ancestors. It brings you to your purpose and it shows you who you have always been before you were groomed or manipulated, because you don't have to be in a cult. I mean, society can groom you or manipulate you to believe things about you that are not even true. It's not your essence. And if you connect with your root, which can be your ancestors, you begin to learn who you have always been because they live inside of you. And again, these are ancestors from before the pain. And these ancestors will live with you until your lifetime is over here. And it's so amazing to know that it doesn't matter the experiences that you've gone through. You are literally able to come back to your essence and come back to your roots.
Mm, so powerful. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us so that we can see in real life what this work does. It's so powerful and so necessary. If we could all just get back to that place of clarity before the world tried to tell us who we are, it's such a powerful place to live from. And I'm so grateful for the type of work you do, Mandy. I know that we have all your links below this episode, but I'd love for you to just tell people here how they can work with you and kind of what that looks like.
So on my website is where you can book an ancestral healing. I just recommend that's where you start. This can just reveal so many things about your roots. And if you have no idea who your ancestors are, then this is a great place to begin. I've had literally ancestors show my clients the villages that they lived in before, the land, where the land is at. Um, and they had no idea. They had no idea. And then they take an ancestry. I had a client who got their results back from ancestry.com, and one of the countries that the ancestors had showed them a village of their ancestors being birthed, um, that country was literally recorded in their ancestry. So it was so amazing, and it was a confirmation even before she knew. And so definitely my website at divinemandyoracle.com. That's where you'll find how to book an ancestral healing personally for you. But you can also find, I have my own podcast on YouTube at Mandy Speaks Up. I'm on TikTok at Mandy Speaks Up. I speak a lot about me escaping a cult as well as the ancestral healings. And you can find all of my other offerings that I do as well on my website, divinemandyoracle.com, Facebook and Instagram at Divine Mandy Oracle as well.
Oh, yay. Everybody listening, definitely go check out Mandy and everything she does. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do as well.
Oh, thank you. Everybody, as always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. We'll see you next week.